Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to the Intellect. But we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Sean Pierce.
Okay, then. One of them right there.
And Sean, we're interested in understanding what it is that you do.
Well, kind of where I'm at today is I've moved into real estate as a realtor here in Chattanooga. To get to that point has kind of taken a bit of a journey. I'm a former law enforcement officer from North Carolina. I've been a chief investigator, a chief deputy. When I got out of law enforcement, I went to work in public safety software sales. That's basically where I interact with law enforcement agencies around the country and sell them software that helps them report crime statistics that occur in their jurisdiction. Those statistics are then given to the state and to the FBI, and that's how we know every year, what crime is like. Are rapes and robberies up or homicides down? That's where that information comes from. So I still do that now, but I have kind of reached a point in my life in about the last half of last year where I kind of felt I wasn't as fulfilled. And my wife helped me to understand that maybe I needed to set some new goals. Well, when I look back, I realized, all the goals I had set for my life, I had already accomplished. I've made money, I've traveled, I've been around the world. All that stuff was paid for by somebody else, one of these companies that I work for. I've been to 44 to 50 states. I've been to Singapore, Malaysia, India, Switzerland. I mean, you name it, I've been there. I've done those things. So about the last 6 or 8 months, I just kind of felt like there was nothing else because I'm a giver and I like doing things. So I decided, what better way than, to become a realtor. We help people meet their dreams, right? Mm-hmm. Some people want to own homes. Well, I can help you do that. A lot of times, in our community, we really don't know where to start.
Right.
Or we're afraid to ask, or we think, well, I don't have enough money for a down payment, so I can never afford that. So it's kind of what's got me to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about some of these programs that are in place to help with their down payment or to get them into their brand new home. There's a lot of different things out there. Have you focused a lot on that? Could you tell us anything?
Yeah, there are a lot of programs available to us, especially if we want to live in certain areas. If you want to live in an area that's more rural, there are particular programs available just for that. If we don't have money for a down payment, Tennessee actually has a program that will help with the down payment. And it's one that you don't have to pay back as long as you keep the house.
Right.
Now, if you sell the house, obviously you got to pay that back. Mm-hmm. But those are things that are available to us that we don't know. Sometimes we tend to think that you have to have perfect credit, and there are programs that are there to help you with that. And especially now, today we see with the last few days the stock market has been on a roller coaster ride. Well, we tend to in our community think that the stock market doesn't affect us, but it does. And so with the ride we've been on right now, the market is thinking, is inflation around the corner? Well, what happens when inflation does come in? Things cost more.
Right.
So if you want to go and buy a car, I don't have $20,000 or $30,000 just to drop on a car to pay for it in cash. So what do I have to do? I have to finance it, right? Mm-hmm. So when inflation comes in, interest rates rise, which means more money comes out of my pocket because my payments are higher.
So I kind of just piggybacking off that. How do you think we can get that information out to our people so they can be more educated, so they can understand how the stock market affects real estate prices and things of inflation, so we can have that information, so it won't be that information gap? Because a lot of times people don't know these things. They don't know about you don't have to have a perfect credit score, or whether there's the value of the credit repair systems and different people they can talk to so they can get them home. If they've been through bankruptcy, how long have they have to wait before they can try to get a home and things of that nature? What type of government programs or state programs or things that are available for financing, or people that may not know the information, or people that may not have all the details and have a great source that they go to get that information?
Sure. The best thing to do is to talk to a professional realtor. And what I don't mean a real estate agent, I mean a realtor who is a member of the National Association of Realtors. We live by and work by a set of moral standards and an ethics code. We're very professional. Things are kept very private. It's like attorney-client privilege kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We don't share information once you're our clients. And to sign up with us, it doesn't cost anybody anything. If you say, Sean, help me find a house, we'll take care of an agreement, and I'll represent you in that search. But what we discuss between the two of us stays between the two of us. The only thing that I have to disclose, if it's something that deals with the property itself, that's an adverse fact. But other than that, you can feel comfortable in knowing that you're going to get good advice, that your information isn't going to be put into the street. Nobody's going to embarrass you. So just find a professional that you can talk to, sit down, talk with someone, and let's just at least help you look at where you're at. Because if I know that my destination is home ownership, well, I can't get there if I don't know where I'm starting at. It's like, if you sit down and you want to go to Savannah, well, I know where Savannah is on a map, but I don't know exactly how to drive to Bay Street. I got to pull up my phone, open up Google Maps, and the first thing it says is, what's your starting point? So I can't get to owning a home. I can't get to a college degree. I can't get to being a husband and a father if I don't look at the very beginning and know, what am I working with? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I need help at? Those kind of things. So talk to somebody that can help you look at those things honestly.
I like that.
So I got a quick question. So I know, calling a realtor can help, somebody trying to buy a home like for a family or something like that. So, but like, what if somebody was trying to get into real estate and like, as far as buying and selling, we're talking to a realtor, help with that, or they should go like another route?
Oh, absolutely. Realtors are there to help everyone. One of the things that drew me to real estate is their view on fair and ethical treatment for everyone, regardless of race, religion, color, creed, sex, sexuality, sexual preference, whatever. Everybody gets a fair shot and fair and equal representation, which is what I really like. So if you're an investor and you want to look at, how can I flip homes, or how can I get in and try to find some of these deals, find your realtor. If you are a homeowner who wants to sell your home, you see a lot of for sale by owner signs in the yards. Well, you really end up spending more money that way. Find your realtor. Find someone who can help you not make the mistakes, who can try to get you the most money they can. Or if you want to be a first-time homeowner, talk to someone, find a realtor, and they'll help you fairly. Doesn't matter what color you are, what sex you are. Doesn't matter if you're in a same-sex relationship. It doesn't matter. They're there to treat everyone the same.
So with the business owner or entrepreneur that's seeking to find a building for business purposes, is there a different set of qualifications that you would need in order, as opposed to residential purchases?
There are some realtors who specialize solely in commercial, and we have plenty of those in the office that I work in. I work out of the East Brandon office because each Keller Williams office is independently owned and operated. So I work out of 1200 Premier Drive in East Brandon. And I know several commercial realtors there as well. And they'll be glad to help you, be glad to talk to anyone.
Now, Sean, I'm a man of the military. You spoke earlier about you were a man in uniform. Does the realtors organizations or alliances here in the city or in the Greater Hamilton County area, do they work very well with veteran organizations in terms of getting veterans into homes and using veteran benefits that they have available to them so that they can be able to have access to home ownership?
Absolutely. Veterans have the best deal in town. They're actually able to get access to no money down loans. That's not available to anyone else. Also, for the average citizen, if you don't put down 20%, you have to pay the private mortgage insurance. Veterans don't have to do that at all. So there are a lot of programs that are there for veterans. And if you're a veteran, if you're looking for a place to stay, contact a realtor.
So we were talking about the starting point. When you were mentioning the starting point, tell us your starting point. Like what started you on your career from the beginning, like when you were in North Carolina?
Well, in the beginning, I grew up in a very rural part of North Carolina. There weren't jobs there weren't manufacturing plants there. And, for those who were able to go to college, man, that was a blessing. Mm-hmm. I grew up in an area, in a time, where, I didn't have a bathroom in my home until I was 13 years old. And my kids don't think that's funny.
Wait a minute, what did you just say?
Yeah.
You said you didn't have a bathroom.
Our region of North Carolina was very, very poor.
Really?
Very poor. And, when I tell my kids today that you're spoiled, you don't appreciate what you got. You don't understand, how to work hard. I grew up, I'm 51 now. I grew up and I didn't have a bathroom, a running bathroom in my home until I was 13 years old.
Like toilet?
Running toilet.
Really?
We had the old outhouse.
Really?
Really?
Kind of like the Porta John up there, like that.
Yeah. Well, that's upscale.
Yeah, that's upscale
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah. This is a hole in the ground, man, and plywood.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
So how did you how you take showers? Like,
Dude.
see, I'm spoiled, I guess. I really am. I have to be.
We're spoiled today.
But
Yeah.
that too.
You know,
Right.
we didn't have an air conditioner. You had a box fan that sat in the window. And, so the prospect of college, at that time, it was very slim. And I was like, this is not going to be my life. Even at a young age, I had made that up in my head. When I got out of high school, I worked for a while, and I said, you know what? I think I want to go in law enforcement. I did. I ended up going in law enforcement. I spent 17 years in. I worked drugs for the state of North Carolina. I was a chief investigator. I was a chief deputy. And the job itself was great. It was a different time. I wouldn't do it now. It was a very different time then. I learned a lot about people, how to interact with people, how to diffuse situations, all those kinds of things. And the job was great until I got in administration. And somebody has to make the agencies run. Somebody has to. I'm not that guy. I like being outside. I like talking to people. I like interacting with people. But being inside a building every day from 8 to 5 drives me nuts.
Yeah, you're not a paper pusher.
No. I like to talk to people.
Yeah.
And so an opportunity came along. We were using a computer program at the time in my office. An opportunity came along, and I was offered a job with that company. And I jumped on it. I hadn't looked back since. So I've been selling computer software systems around the globe for the last 20 years.
So you went 17 years law enforcement and then 20 years into the software. Nice.
Now,
And 13 years with no toilet.
13 years on toilet.
Man.
Look, that's a degree in itself.
I see kids today, I'm like, well, I'm bored or I whatever. I'm like, dude, you got a PlayStation. I had a ditch with water and tadpoles in it.
But if you think about it, the dish with the tadpoles might have been fun.
It was fun. Back then, you had to get out of the house, you had to go out and you stay out. Today, kids don't want to go outside and play in the yard at all.
You hear that, Jay Sean? He's talking about you.
So it taught something. It taught me something. But also, at 12 years old, I started working. I've been working every day since I was 12 years old.
And see, that's the drive that we don't have nowadays with these kids. Even, now, of course, legal age to work now, I think it's 16. I think that's what it was whenever I was young. And as soon as I turned 16, I went out and got a job. Matter of fact, I think I was talking to you about this not too long ago. On my birthday, like when I turned 15, I went out to the DMV. My mama took me to the DMV. I got my permit. When I turned 16, I went out and got my driver's license. But these kids nowadays, they're really not pressed to where they really want to drive nowadays. Like they have no drive to drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Take me.
Yeah,
Right.
take me somewhere.
And I think, even if the legal age is 16, I think there should still be something like, hey, a kid can go out here and rake leaves in the neighbor's yard for $5. There should be something. But I learned the value of work at an early age. I started working in tobacco, and I worked in tobacco every year. So I would work all summer, and I would have enough money that summer to pay for my school clothes for the year, to pay for my lunch and everything. So I learned how to manage and budget my money, which is something else that we don't do now, which is something that we have to start doing. We have to start building wealth. We have to start saving money. We got to start teaching our young people to do those things early, and not wait till you get 60 years old trying to figure out how you're going to live, on your Social Security check.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you.
You're talking about economic empowerment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When you're talking about your life experiences from being law enforcement into sales, what would you say you did with any type of racism during that time frame? And if you did, what kind and how has it changed now in today's landscape?
There was racism, there is racism, and there always will be racism.
I can dig it.
The difference is how we choose to respond to certain things. A lot of times, life is choices, right? So we can decide to handle the situation, a negative situation, in a manner that can bring positivity to it, or we can choose to handle a negative situation in a negative manner that's going to bring negative publicity to it. So even in law enforcement, I was exposed to those things, not within the agencies I work with, but there was one time where I was in plain clothes driving and I was stopped by a trooper, simply because I had, what he thought was a nice car. Speed limit on the interstate was 70. I was driving 71. He slowed down. I passed him. He stopped me and said, it's not smart to pass a state trooper. I said, well, I'm sorry, but just in case you didn't know, I attended the Police Law Institute, and nowhere in the North Carolina General Statutes does it say I can't pass you. So we have to be informed. I'm not saying we should always talk back when those things come up, but we can address things. We can address what has to be addressed in a manner that fits the situation. Just because someone is acting out racist doesn't mean that you got to be an out and out knucklehead.
That's true.
But there are varying degrees of racism. It's not just calling someone the N-word. How many times have you been to the store and the clerk behind the counter has been Caucasian, and you hand them your cash or your debit card, and instead of them handing it back to you, they slap it down on the table.
on that table, oh Lord.
I'm gonna tell you another one. I went into the grocery. I ain't gonna say the name because I know we're recording everything. But I went to the store, and as soon as I walked in, I had a feeling ain't got somebody following you, watching you. So I hit the corner, and somebody acting like a customer, following behind me, trying to see if I'm, they finna steal. And I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? I turn around real fast. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, but
they were shouting. Yeah. I said, oh man, you follow me. But I mean, I felt like they watched me because I was a 6'4" black man walking in the store. You know what I'm saying?
And they don't know you got a job, you work full time, you got money in your pocket. But a lot of times, if people like us don't make a positive statement for the rest of us, nobody else will. There have been times I've been to places where I've been the only person of color there. I've been to some nice restaurants. I'll be the only person of color, especially when I work and travel.
Right.
So me being me, I usually ask for a seat in the middle of the room. So I want you to see me.
Do you feel like it puts more pressure on you to be the best version of you at all times because you know that people look at you and might say, I don't know about that guy.
I think pressure, that it's kind of a slanted thing. Because, me, I'm just going to be me. And you can either like me or not like me. One thing that I've learned in life is it doesn't matter what you do. There are going to be a subset of people that like you, and there are going to be a subset that don't like you. They're going to be a subset that like you for being a positive role model in your community. But guess what? In that same community, there's going to be a group that says you're a sellout because you're doing X. So you can't please everybody.
Right.
So the best thing that I can do, the best thing that any of us can do is I do what I can live with. What I can get up and I can look in the mirror and I can look back at myself and say, you know what? I'm proud of what you did yesterday. If my wife or my kids are proud with the man that I am, that's all I need. I don't care what anybody else thinks about me. You can like it, you can not like it, but at the end of the day, if I can help you, I'll still help you if I can.
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to the individual woman, because you know my wife. She's very strong, she's very outspoken. But a lot of women are not, and a lot of women have been given a raw deal, not just now, but completely in the past. And, as men, we need to make sure that, we speak up for them when we see those things happening, and then we have their back when we know those things are happening. And we should always make sure they know that, if something is going on and you feel like you can't talk to somebody and let them know what's happening, let me know, let you know, and we'll pass those things on. But we have to support,
Right.
Society is better when everybody experiences equality.
It is. We all benefit.
This is an off to the left question, but I know you're in the military. How do you feel about everybody having a gun?
Well, when I wasn't in the military, I was in law enforcement.
Okay.
Now, as far as the Second Amendment and firearms, I'm pro Second Amendment. Again, I grew up in rural North Carolina. I grew up shooting. I think firearms are, they're tools. They're like the car, Cars don't kill people. Drunk drivers driving a car kill people. There's a difference. Firearms, if you are trained how to use them, they can be entertaining, fun, and enjoyable, but they can also protect you when you need to.
Yep.
In my house, everyone in my house knows how to shoot. My wife, she's a shooter. My son and my daughter, they learn to shoot from me. I would much rather they learn to shoot from me than going someplace with a bunch of friends and playing with firearms. Right. So if my son is out and he sees a gun on the ground, he knows how to properly pick it up, remove the ammunition and store it and get it to where an adult can deal with it. But I'm pro Second Amendment. I don't have any problems with it. I think we tend to focus too much on things that really aren't important. We have a lot more serious issues than the right to carry a firearm, because it is a right, which really shouldn't be for debate. But we have other problems that are going on in our country. We have women who are being sexually harassed and made to feel like that is okay. We have women who are being paid 70 cents on a dollar for most men. We have kids who are growing up without parents in the house. We have, people who just are abusing the system. We have people who, want to go out and rob, steal, those kind of things. We have racism going on. We have all kinds of things that we should be trying to deal with before we worry about, whether or not somebody has the right to carry a firearm, which, by the way, you do have that right.
Right.
As long as those rights haven't been, forfeited because of some criminal action or something.
Mm-hmm.
So with software, I know it's really intricate. You have to know the software in order to be able to sell it to your patrons. And I know that with real estate, it's pretty much the same. And with both of them, you have to stay current because things are consistently changing. How do you deal with the knowledge of that and your work-life balance and being able to flip that switch to turn it off so that you can, have harmony and happiness on the other side?
Great question. Well, my wife and I were kind of a lot alike, but we're also extremely different. But in that aspect, she and I both, we like having things to do. Devon, I tell you, he knows I'm always doing something. My wife is always doing something. And a lot of those times we're doing that something together because we just like being busy. You feel like you're productive and you're vibrant and you're doing something.
So you have a purpose.
Yeah, you have a purpose. And that's what life should be lived on purpose. You should be doing things, trying to better whatever your sphere of influence is. Maybe I can't change the world, but I can change the world inside of, 15, 20, 50 friends. If I can do that, then I'm happy. Mm-hmm. But, as far as the knowledge part, for me, it is very easy for me to flip the switch. Especially, law enforcement has taught me that things change rapidly. I could be here 1 minute and everything is just nice and quiet, and in 3 seconds, the bottom has fallen out and everything has gone bad, and you have to be able to react. So being able to shift for me has always been very easy. It's kind of natural, and I like it. I like the challenge. I like learning, which is something else that we should always do. Don't ever stop learning. The minute you stop learning, man, you're headed for the nursing home. So if you're 50, 60, 70 years old, find something to learn. Always learn. If you're 18 and out of high school, start learning something else. Mm-hmm. But don't stop learning, because there's this thing called the law of the lids, which means you will never rise any higher than where you're at now unless you expose yourself to something different. Mm. So find something different, learn something different, raise that lid, move a little higher. You know what? And when you get there, raise that lid again, learn something that you don't know, get a little bit higher.
Well, just take that lid off.
Take the lid off.
Drop right
And now when you learn, don't keep it to yourself. Share that with people. Pass that knowledge on. Pass it on.
Kind of spark that, because then you might spark something in them. They're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna go over here and read this or look at that.
I was the first black chief investigator at my agency, and since I was in law enforcement, I had heard things, like, well, we don't do that, or that's not the kind of job we do. Well, if we don't do those jobs, then guess what happens? Then we're left to be represented by someone who doesn't know or understand us. But once I got in law enforcement and I began to expose that to other people of color in my region, there have been others who've come behind me. One who now was an at-risk youth in North Carolina, who is now chief of police at a very good-sized agency in North Carolina. And I think back, the totality of our lifetime, I think we should be able to look at our lives and say, what kind of impact did I have on somebody else? Did I encourage somebody along the way? Did I say something to help somebody? Sometimes it just takes you stopping and saying, hey, how you doing? But if I had not stopped that one night and talked to that young man and eventually got him riding in the car with me to see what the job was, he probably wouldn't be chief of police today. There's no telling where he would be. So we have to, take time for others.
Now, you were talking about the software that built the statistics. Do you think sometimes the statistics that show in certain communities that influences how police interact with those communities in terms of, okay, this community or this city or this state has this much crime going on in the city of Memphis, therefore that informs or it shapes law enforcement policy in those regions based off this crime statistics happening in this majority black area or majority Hispanic area? Do you think that sometimes inadvertently causes some type of bias within law enforcement when they interact with those communities because they're just looking at, okay, this is the high crime area, this is where the red area is, this is where we need to be and have heavy presence? Do you think sometimes they may influence those statistics and just looking at people as raw numbers?
Well, I think bias has something to do with something other than numbers. If you have a bias towards the Hispanic community and you project that in the force that you put into an area or the black community, I think a lot of times that bias can be influenced not by statistics, but by a personal bias. Because statistics themselves, the numbers, I can tell you what the state of Tennessee says. Tennessee says, whatever happens that you were told about, we require that you report that. You put those numbers in, and then we'll look at the statistics and tell you what they are. Now, I have seen departments, and I have made it known that the entry they were doing was improper, and have let them know that I would notify the state should that continue, because there have been agencies who choose to put in the system what they want to put in and leave out what they want to leave out,
Right.
which is a violation of federal law. And that can skew statistics, because it's important to know, how many child molestations happen within an area. It's important to know how many home burglaries happen in an area. But it is not doing the public any good when you slant those numbers. Now, there are agencies who have biases. There was recently a news report about this police chief up in Kentucky who was trying to interview a new officer, and he was talking about shooting black people, and he was using the N-word.
Yeah.
You can't eliminate knuckleheads. It's just like law enforcement is like any other profession.